If you're looking to plan a trip to Disney World or Universal Studios in Orlando, you're in the right place. We recently did our big trip to Orlando back in October, and I'm not gonna lie, we've been planning this trip for about 6 years. We both decided that this trip to Orlando was going to be a trip of a lifetime for us. So we really wanted to go as adults and just be big kids for 2.5 weeks. But this video isn't about me. It's about you and your big trip to Disney and Universal Studios in Orlando. I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know to make this trip worthwhile and the best trip of your entire life. Okay, so let's get started. First things first, what do you want to actually do in Orlando? Who will be coming with you? If you're going to have children with you, this might change the trip a little bit as you'll need to think of the little ones. So you'll need to consider where you're going to stay, what parks you want to visit, how long you want to spend in the parks, and those sorts of things. When we decided on our trip, we decided we were going to spend 1 week in Disney, 1 week in Universal, and then a little bit of time to relax in between those two parks. This really helped me to plan our time. Let's first start on decide when you want to go and your budget. This is a good place to start because the heat in Florida is no joke. We were originally deciding to go in June, but we decided not to because the weather's meant to be really hot in Florida that time of year. Consider the weather when you go, because if you want to have really long park days like us, going when it's really hot might not be a good idea. Also consider if there are any events that you would like to attend whilst you are there. For us, we really wanted to go to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and also Halloween Horror Nights. So going in October was perfect for us. The weather was great too. It wasn't too hot, it was still quite warm, and there wasn't much rain. Considering your budget is another place to start. I'm gonna be honest, going to Disney World and Universal is really expensive, but hopefully some of the tips I give you might help you to save money in some places. Okay, next you need to decide what you actually want to do in the parks. I had spreadsheets, like big, hefty spreadsheets. I had spreadsheets coming out of my ears. I'm not saying you have to do this, but I personally love a good spreadsheet. So Disney World is actually made up of 6 parks. You have Magical Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, Typhoon Lagoon, and Blizzard Beach. The last 2 are water parks. Universal Studios is quite simple. You have Universal Studios, Islands of Adventure, and then not forgetting the water park, Volcano Bay. So on my spreadsheet, I noted down the different parks, the different attractions and rides within those parks, and then highlighted the ones we actually wanted to go and do. This is helpful because it will tell you how long you need in each individual park. We then sat together and decided what exactly we wanted to do, and we also watched walkthroughs of rides and attractions on YouTube. That was really helpful and that made us make a decision. We did actually decide to do a lot of the things because we didn't actually want to miss out on anything. This might sound a bit extra, but trust me, it is worth it. Next up, you need to decide where you want to stay. So the good thing about this is that you have lots of options of where to stay. You can stay outside of the parks, which is definitely an option that we considered. We actually ended up staying inside the parks at both Universal Studios and Disney World. But we'll talk about Disney World first. So you have 3 different tiers of resorts. You have value, moderate, and deluxe. They obviously vary in price, and I'm not gonna lie, staying at Disney is expensive. But we decided that we wanted the perks of staying on site. Some of the perks were being able to use the Disney transportation and being able to get into the parks early. Also being able to get back to our hotel really quickly at the end of the day when we were exhausted. So where did we decide to stay? We actually decided to stay in a value resort. We were more than happy to do this because we knew we were barely going to be in our hotel room. We literally just needed somewhere to sleep and shower. We were out of the door by 8 AM and we were normally back by like 11 PM. Our resort was the Pop Century Resort and we actually loved it. The buses were always on time to take you to each of the different parks, and the good thing about Pop Century is that you have the Skyliner, which was walking distance from where our hotel room was, and the Skyliner takes you to a couple of other different parks as well. For Universal, we ended up staying at the Hard Rock Hotel. Similar to Disney, Universal also have different tiered resorts. We decided to stay at one of the Premier hotels because staying at one of the 3 Premier hotels means that you get a Universal Express Pass included in your hotel stay. We'll talk a little bit more about express passes later on, but basically this means that you get to skip the lines for an unlimited amount of times. So in our opinion, it was definitely worth it. Okay, let's talk about express passes. I'm going to talk about Universal first because it's just more simple. So you either have an express pass or you don't. You can get an ordinary express pass, which means that you can skip the line once for each ride, or you can get an unlimited express pass, which means that you can skip the line for an unlimited amount of times. If you stay in one of the premier hotels, your room key is actually your express pass. Right. Let's talk about Disney. This is where it gets a little bit complicated. So for Disney, you can't actually buy an express pass like Universal. Instead, you have something called Genie Plus. This is something you need to purchase that's in additional to your park ticket. This will give you an opportunity to get in line at some of the most popular attractions, but you'll need to book this on the app from 7 a.m. of the day of your park visit. Now, for some of the popular rides, you might be able to purchase something called a Lightning Lane Pass. So this is at an additional cost, but it gives you guaranteed entry into that ride. I really hope that makes sense. It can be a bit confusing. Okay, so what about food? This is cool. Did you know that you can actually get food deliveries to your resort? This was super good because we got things like water, fruit, snacks, milk, all that kind of stuff that we wanted. We actually got that delivered to our resort when we were staying at Disney. So we didn't have to worry about paying extortionate prices for things whilst we were at the parks. In that case, breakfast was sorted. I even bought little snacks from the UK, like breakfast bars and nuts that we could snack on throughout the day. I even bought a bowl and my favourite cereal and a spoon from home, so I didn't have to worry about breakfast in the morning. For lunch, we did actually eat at the parks, but we normally shared a meal because the portion sizes are huge, and to be honest, me, someone who gets motion sickness a lot on rides, I just didn't really feel like I wanted a full stomach before I was going to go on these crazy roller coasters. For dinner, we usually ate in the parks too, but there were times that we would completely skip lunch and we would just have dinner in the evening. And sometimes we just ate when we were hungry. This was the same at Universal as well. It was super easy to eat and you can normally order off the app anyway, so you can just order what you want and when you want it and just go and pick it up. So it was all really, really easy. Let's move on to buying merchandise and shopping. When considering your budget for this trip, please try and put aside some money for just your shopping expenses because you are going to want to spend a small fortune in the parks because some of the merchandise they have is amazing. If you want to see everything that I personally bought, I'll do a separate video on it. Let me know in the comments. We don't gatekeep on this channel, so I'm going to tell you something that I found out when I went to Orlando. You might come across some random Disney and Universal merchandise shops outside of the parks. Orlando is literally full of them. These shops sell t-shirts, frames, keyrings, hats, magnets, postcards, you name it, any sort of souvenir you will find in these shops. It's so good. Like even the cap I'm wearing in this picture is from one of these shops. And they're quite heavily discounted as well. So if you're looking for something in particular, I would definitely recommend visiting one of these shops before you spend money in the parks. Although I do have to mention that the quality does differ from buying something from one of these shops and then buying something from the parks. Next up is planning your day. If you're hardcore Disney fans like we are, you'll probably want to make sure that you cover everything you have planned to cover. I created an itinerary so we had a rough idea of everything that we were planning on covering on that one day. And it would also help us on what we would tackle first. I'm going to be honest with you, when you first walk into the parks, you're going to be so overwhelmed with excitement that it's just good to have a game plan and you know what you're going to be doing first. Obviously, it doesn't really matter if you don't stick to what you had planned to stick to on that particular day. It might be that a ride is broken down, or maybe you just didn't get a chance to go on a particular ride. And then you might have to do it on a separate day. That's absolutely fine. My last tip is to breathe and take it all in. We knew for us personally, this trip was going to be amazing. So I planned to the extreme to make sure that this trip was going to be perfect for us. Think about the things that you are into and that you enjoy, and when you're planning, make sure you dedicate enough time to enjoy those things. In the craziness of it all, remember that you are in one of the most amazing places and you'll never be in this place at this exact moment in time ever again. When we look back on our trips, we literally have zero regrets. Doing this trip as an adult was amazing. We were able to be the big kids that we love to be. We went on all the rides we wanted to go on and as many times as we wanted to go on them. And we literally had no one to answer to. Literally the best time of my life, and I don't think any other trip will ever compare to this one. So I really hope that this video was helpful in planning your epic trip to Disney World and Universal Studios. If you have any questions at all, feel free to leave a comment down below, or you can message me on one of my social channels. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!